Good evening and welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us for the next 30 minutes as we talk about the good, bad, and ugly of relationships. A huge shout out to our sponsors, La Rosa's and Buffalo Wings and Rings in Greendale, Indiana, Greendale Cinemas, and Maxwell Construction. We are so thankful for these local businesses who have made this show possible. So whether you are listening live or online, Rock Solid Radio, helping to strengthen our community one family at a time on your hometown radio, Eagle Country 99.3. Good evening, Eagle Country. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And really excited to come to you guys tonight. What a great opportunity we're going to have as we get into our topic tonight. I've got a special guest, Amanda Porter. Amanda, thank you for being with Rock Solid Families tonight. And tonight we have a tough topic. We've got a topic that probably I can say most of our audience either deals with or knows somebody who does deal with. And that is anxiety and depression. All right.
It's a tough one.
So here we are in the winter, the dark days. Some of us even talk about SAD, right? Seasonal affective disorder, depressive disorder. And so, man, it just can be all around us this time of year especially. And so we're going to tackle that topic tonight. And Amanda, you want to give just a little background of where you come from and what your expertise is?
Sure. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem.
I am right now practicing as a psychiatric nurse practitioner out at the Lindner Center of Hope in Mason, Ohio.
Wonderful place.
I think so too. It's a freestanding mental health facility. We see everyone from every walk of life, the whole spectrum of mental health diagnoses, all ages. And so I feel really blessed to work in a place like that.
Yeah. So how about before we get started, let me do some housekeeping, okay? First, a big special thanks out there to all of our sponsors that allow Rock Solid Radio to be possible. So a big thank you to Maxwell Construction, Buffalo Wings and Rings, Greendale Cinemas, and La Rosa's Pizza. Guys, we just want to thank you so much for your support and to continue to let us to jump into 2019 with just more discussion and opportunity to reach out to our families. So thank you so much. And do us a favor, frequent those places and let them know that you're listening to Rock Solid Radio and that you like it. So we would appreciate that. Also, I got a couple of announcements I want to run through. Rock Solid Families has got lots of things coming up here as we jump into the new year. One of our things I want to remind everybody is we have a parenting series that is coming up at Bright Elementary. It's 4 classes. We'll do January 30th, February 27th, March 13th, and April 24th. Those are at Bright Elementary, as I said. They run from 6:30 in the evening till 8 p.m. Those will be in the library room at Bright Elementary. Our first topic, just to kind of let you know, is grandparents raising grandchildren. So that's it, man, that topic is just kind of blowing up. Some really interesting stats. We're going to actually do a radio show on that because of the numbers of questions and interest that we get on that topic. On February 27th, we're going to talk about when school is tough, so the tough times of schooling, and then when your child's struggling in school. So we can maybe help direct people to resources and to get to help their child get through some of the difficult days of school. On March 13, we're going to talk about what it is to parent in this tech-heavy world. We did a radio show on that one already, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like and how you can help your family and your kids through that time. And on April 24th, we're going to talk about who's the boss in your house. And that's kind of basically establishing your authority in the home as a parent and why that's important and how that will help you to be a better, stronger parent, especially in the biblical sense. So can't wait for those. We also have a boundaries class that Linda will be teaching on February 6th, and that's from 7 to 8 p.m. at Whitewater Crossing Christian Church in Cleves, Ohio. That's actually a 6-week class, so stay tuned for that, and we'll give you more information on that. Oh, I started my Strong Dads class. So my Strong Dads class is one of my favorite classes. That is a class, we started it January 12th, and so that was kind of a snow day. It was really nasty and snowy. So we are going to kind of push the start of that to this weekend coming up, and so that's actually going to be an 8-week class where we do 45 minutes of workout, a physical workout, and 45 minutes of study to be a good dad. So that's a fun time. And also we have our couples retreat, and that's going to be February 15th and 16th at Camp Higher Ground. So contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or 1-812-576-ROCK. That's 7625. So, man, I think that's all my announcements. So let's roll. Let's get into this. All right. So anxiety and depression. Why this topic? I'm going to get into some personal conversation a little bit about this. This story runs deep for me, and it's close to my heart in terms of helping people, because it's very much part of my fabric in terms of my story that I've walked. So that's why I felt just determined to do this topic. And I have my own personal experience, but I thank you for coming in, Amanda, to help provide some of the professional expertise on the backside of that personal experience. So a little bit about my story. I grew up as a healthy kid, involved in athletics, loved sports, involved with school stuff. Everything seemed to look halfway normal, for as normal as I could be. And I started to notice when I was a younger kid that I got pretty anxious about things, but I didn't know how anxious other people were. So I didn't know if that was kind of the standard, like playing a baseball game. You know, before a baseball game, I'd get sick. And I didn't know if other people got sick or not. Once the game started, I was absolutely fine. It was game on and I was ready to play. But the anticipation kind of put me to my knees. And so, but you know, I kind of went through that, and I got into my high school years, and I actually remember days of walking through high school thinking, oh man, I just can't hardly get through this day. But that day would pass. And the next day I might feel better or feel stronger. Strength is always kind of the way I measured that for myself. Like, I just don't feel strong today, or I'm feeling kind of weak today. And it was more of not a muscular strong as strong for pursuing and working through the day. And so I used to kind of ebb and flow out of that feeling, but I just tried to package it like, oh, it's just a bad day. Once I got married, started in a career of teaching, we actually had just had our first son, and I was going to night class, getting my master's. I was coaching swimming at the time, running like crazy, and burning the candle really at both ends. And we had our oldest son, and a week after we had our oldest son, I experienced my first panic attack. And I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of a panic attack. I thought I was having a heart attack. I actually ended up in an ambulance. And they didn't call it a panic attack. They just ran some vitals on me, gave me some IV fluids, and I started to feel a little bit better, and I went on my way. The next day I had another panic attack. And within that week, after that first one, I had 4 or 5 panic attacks. They scared the daylights out of me. The scary thing about that for me is wherever I had a panic attack, I became kind of phobic about that area. Like, I did not want to revisit that. So I had a panic attack in a church. I did not want to step foot back in that church again. I had panic attacks at different restaurants that we would eat out at. I'd say, no, I'm never going back to that place again. I started, everything I did, I cased out before I'd go in, like, where am I going to exit this place if I have to? Who's going to take care of me if I start to kind of freak out here? My whole world started to be designed that way around panic. And I really didn't even know or understand that people had that. Because, the best advice I got from 3 times being in the emergency room or my doctor's office was, you just need to relax and take a couple of days off. And man, that was a journey. That was an exhausting journey. And it went for about a year, having panic attacks while I was teaching my class at school. I was falling apart. And finally, after about a year, I had kind of the ultimate meltdown. And that meltdown put me in a place that I finally had to look at my wife and say, something's got to change because I can no longer live this way. I'm not the dad, the husband, the teacher, the coach that I know I can be and that I was. Something's wrong with me. And I went back and I prior to that, about a week or two prior, I found a book about anxiety. And I was reading that book and I started just underlining and highlighting everything. And I went back to the doctor, and the one who had told me to just take a break, take a little rest. And I respectfully said, please don't tell me. Please do not tell me to take a break. I said, this is what I've got right here. And I opened up that book and I just started going through that with him. And he saw the seriousness in my eye and he said, I think we can help you. And at that moment was the start of things starting to turn around for me. Amanda, the difficult part for me, I tried prayer, I tried sleep, I tried so many things, and it was just failure after failure, always reoccurring myself into the same position. Once I got with the doctor and we started medical treatment through medicine, I started to find some stability, and it wasn't a quick fix for me. It was a process of healing. And the process still continues. Okay, so here I am 27 years later, still very aware of the situation. The number of people that I've been able to help and talk to about this has been incredible. I really believe God has brought those people across my path because, no, I'm not a psychiatrist or a medical professional, but my personal experience has made me have an empathy for those folks. And so that's kind of my story. And of course, we could go on forever, but I don't want to yak anymore on my story. But I just feel like one thing I would like to really touch on today is, yes, it's a mental illness. Just like your heart gets ill, or your belly gets ill, or a muscle gets injured. It's an illness, it's a hurt, it's a damage of some sort. But there's treatment. There's treatment, and there are solutions. So that's kind of my story. And I would like to talk tonight with you, Amanda, about so what's going on in the world of treating anxiety and depression, and what is your experience that you see that walks in your doors every day?
Yeah. I think that the story you just described, where your anxiety manifested in very physical ways, I hear that story all the time. And it's so interesting to me because people seem to fight tooth and nail against the fact that their anxiety is coming out in all these physical ways. They, for some reason, don't want to accept that their anxiety might be causing them to have chest pain or trouble breathing or tremors or migraines or back pain or trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
They seek medical treatment for all these physical ailments without stopping to consider that maybe the root of all of this is anxiety. And so the typical case for someone who walks in my office is they've been through what they feel like is every option available to them, and they're coming to me as a last resort, which I hate. I wish I would see more people come to me
Let's get
for
help
prevention.
Earlier.
I know, come to me earlier before it's gotten this far along. But for the majority of the folks that I see, they do want to pursue some sort of medication option. And so I talk to them about the different medications that are available. I do usually recommend that they go see a therapist because the talk therapy piece is incredibly important.
Yes.
And I really feel like the medication and the therapy working together give you the best chance for recovery. At the same time, I don't want to just be a pill pusher.
Right.
I want someone to really examine their life and go about this in a holistic way if possible. And so I want to talk about diet and nutrition. I want to talk about exercise. I want to talk about time management and try and incorporate all these other things into a person's treatment plan as well.
Man, and that is so critical what you just talked about there, because for me, I have found it's so important for me to strike the balance. Because as I talked about before, I started on a medication, but it didn't just fix it. And so then here I am, a counselor, right? I'm a counselor and working with people in these things, and I'm wondering what in the world's going on with me? And so actually starting to talk with people and get help that way allowed me to start to figure out like my triggers, how to handle when something was going to trigger. So when I was sleep deprived, I could almost guarantee I was going to have more problems. When I was eating too much sugar, and it continues to this day, if I'm a sugar freak, and I do know that a lot of anxiety and depression people sort of crave these carbohydrates. Right?
Well, it's a comfort food.
And so it feels really good for about 10 or 15 minutes, and the next thing you know, you're like in a funk.
Right.
And so when you realize that, man, I got to manage that, that's another part of that puzzle. So what are some of your the things that you run into that you see in ways to help and treat in today's world with medications, with the therapy? What's coming down the road?
Well, there are new medications coming on the market all the time. I'm not as skilled in the therapy realm, that side of things, but I work with a really fantastic group of psychotherapists that can really work hard with a person as far as digging into maybe what is in their background, as far as any trauma history, as far as any experiences in childhood that are affecting them still today, and kind of unearthing those issues and working those out. But I would say that probably the most helpful piece of advice that I could offer somebody is to really take care of their body as best they can. And so this goes back to the holistic piece. If you're running yourself ragged, if you're not allowing yourself to get enough sleep, if you're numbing your emotions with alcohol or smoking or whatever the case might be, if you're not working with a clean slate, then you're not really giving yourself the best possible chance for recovery.
Right. What do you know, or what's your experience with the hereditary component, the genetics in this? Is that, do you see a pretty strong fiber of that runs through?
Absolutely. There's definitely a generational pattern to a lot of the mental illness that I treat. And that is hard to say, is this nature versus nurture? Nobody really knows. There is some pretty newer technology that we have available to us at the Linder Center where we can do some genetic testing to check on the presence of a couple of particular genetic mutations that would make somebody more susceptible, more at risk for anxiety or depression.
So are you saying, like, I've never had a genetic test done there, but I do ask the question because it runs rampant through my family, especially through my mom's side. And, of course, that didn't make sense to me till all of a sudden I started coming up with this, and then I started looking back through my mother's family tree and going, oh my gosh. But they never used the term anxiety. They just said that's the crazy aunt, or that's that's the reclusive one, or whatever.
They didn't talk about this kind of stuff in these older generations.
And didn't use that terminology, and that they just couldn't make the family outing together. They weren't feeling well. There was always some sort of excuse there. And when I stepped back, I was going, wow, that same issue is right here in me. But I've never had a genetic test. So what does that look like? Do I go to the doctor for that? How do I go about that?
So the particular vendor that we use in our office, it's literally a 30-second test. It's a cheek swab test.
Gotcha.
So we're able to
Okay.
look at the DNA from your saliva cells and kind of match that up to your liver function and tell you whether you test positive for this particular genetic mutation that would essentially lead to you not producing serotonin adequately.
Right.
And so, of course, serotonin is a huge player when it comes to keeping anxiety and depression under control.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, the brain chemistry here. So through my walk in this, I've learned a lot about serotonin and dopamine and the neurotransmitters in the brain that help either keep us calm or make us feel good. And the one thing that we always hear is that we've got a serotonin deficiency of some sort. Something's not working right with serotonin, right? So what are some of the primary medications that you hear, that you work with, is how they relate to serotonin?
So gold standard treatment for anyone with depression or anxiety is typically some sort of serotonin booster. So this might be something along the lines of Prozac, Zoloft, Celexa, Lexapro. Some of those medications are older, but we have newer generations of serotonin boosters. So something like Pristiq, Cymbalta, Effexor, just to name a few. And those are relatively effective for the majority of the people that I see. But what we are realizing is that it's not enough to put somebody on a medication like this. So we also want to make sure that they have the right nutrition in place because we do ingest a certain amount of micronutrients that are key ingredients in making these neurotransmitters. So someone who has a diet low in vitamin B6 or zinc or magnesium, for example, you could load them up with serotonin boosting medications, but if they don't have the ingredients to make the serotonin in the first place, it's not going to be as effective.
You don't have the building blocks for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that I have definitely read more and more about a healthy gut, the bacteria and stuff in the gut that is being linked to mental health. And so is that what you're talking about here?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's absolutely part of it, too. It's interesting because about 70 to 90% of your serotonin is stored in your gut. So if the lining of your intestinal tract is unhealthy, then again, the serotonin is not going to multiply the way that we want it to.
That's interesting, yeah. So that explains a lot of what you also, there's a lot of attachment of irritable bowel syndrome with anxiety and different sort of gut problems.
Exactly.
And so that's connected, isn't it?
It's all connected. Mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, it is. Well, so what about the side effects of medicine? You know, with my 27-year journey, boy, at first when I started on medication, it was my goal to get off of medication because, one, I don't want to be on a drug. I don't want to be dependent. I don't want to be called ill or sick. And so I fought that. And I also, that was 27 years ago, I was so new. Like Prozac had only been around 4 or 5 years by the time that I had started. They were really, we don't know about the long-term side effects. We don't know. So what are some of the side effects that I should be aware of and concerned with some of these medications if I'm in this situation of talking about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most common side effects that I typically see, headaches, pretty common, dry mouth, dry eyes, GI upset, of course, because the goal is to activate all that serotonin that's stored in your gut. So a lot of people have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. Some people do gain weight, unfortunately. Some people do have some sort of sedation. Some medications more than others. Some people do have sexual side effects. All those things are really common. But for the majority of the people that I see, if they're able to hang in there and power through, a lot of these side effects fade away with time. And other people just feel like the benefit that the medication brings them is worth the trade-off for the side effect that they deal with. And it's a personal choice.
Yeah. And I would have to say, for me, that's kind of where I arrived. I did have some of those side effects, but they were so small relative to the benefit. Because the benefit of health, like having strength and the willing to fight, back in your life to fight for purposes and to do another day of work or battle, so to speak, was coming back. And man, that was what I was missing. I remember actually thinking I could just lay in bed all day and hide from everything. And that was just a sad place to be.
Of course.
And so when it came back to me to kind of have a spunk and a fight back in me, it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it has to be worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing journey. Now, how often do you see people get on a medication and they're able to come off and get back to health without long-term treatments?
Yeah, I'd say probably 30% of the people that I see, they do come to me. We spend maybe a year or two working together, and they feel like their depression or their anxiety goes into remission and resolves, and they're able to come off their medications and sustain that level of functioning, and then kind of go on with their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I when I was going through that process, like I told you, I couldn't wait to get off medicine because I was like, okay, maybe this will be I've healed and I'm ready to go. And so I did start to feel better. And on 3 different occurrences, I came off the medication, and all 3 times found myself back to where I was. It took about 5, 6, 7 months, but I found myself back to where I was. And I went to some educational research program years ago, and they talked about 50% of the people will find themselves having relapse or reoccurrences of these anxieties. And I happen to be, I guess, the lucky one or whatever that comes back into that. But again, it's a continual process of healing, of maintaining health.
Absolutely.
And so the other thing is faith. What do you see faith playing in this whole journey?
Yeah, I think it's it's kind of a tense discussion sometimes about the role, the relationship between faith and anxiety. And I teach a free workshop at the Whitewater Crossing.
Yes, tell us about that.
Christian Church. Yeah. So my next workshop is going to be in May. I have 2 dates in May, and it's absolutely free, open to the public. And I really spend about 60 to 75 minutes focusing about how we can use our faith to combat our anxiety. So it's kind of a tense balance there sometimes, but I feel like the best piece of advice that I could give to somebody who's trying to figure out how their faith and their anxiety can coexist is to treat their anxiety as a form of fasting. So a lot of people in any sort of faith community have had this practice of fasting to where they will go without food for a certain period of time. When they feel the hunger pangs, that's their reminder to pray. And what I like to teach my patients is that go about your life, go about your day, and when the anxiety kicks in, that's your trigger to pray. This is the method by which you can draw closer to Christ.
Yeah, that is so good. I did that naturally because of the fear that happened. I actually, I remember hearing or reading the scripture, "Pray without ceasing."
Yes,
and that never, whatever. Those were words. And when I was going through all of this, I was praying without ceasing. And what a great reminder. I'm sorry that it took anxiety, an anxiety condition to get me to that point. Well, Amanda, you have been so helpful in this conversation. Again, how would people reach you at the Linder Center?
Yes, they're welcome to get on the website. They can look me up on the website, or they can give my office a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to reach me.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you, Eagle listeners out there, for listening. We hope that our conversation was meaningful, and if we can help you at Rock Solid Families, please give us a call. You can reach us at, again, 812-576-7625. That's ROCK. And also, you could reach us online at rocksolidfamilies.org. Again, I just want to thank our sponsors for helping us out. Thank you to Maxwell Construction, Buffalo Wings and Rings, Greendale Cinemas, and La Rosa's Pizza. Thanks for a great conversation, Amanda. And listeners, thank you for being there. And let's make it a great night.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard this evening, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, La Rosa's and Buffalo Wings and Rings in Greendale, Indiana, Greendale Cinema, and Maxwell Construction. If you have questions you'd like answered on air or want to chime in on something you heard this evening, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next Sunday evening at 7:30 for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in on your hometown radio, Eagle Country 99.3.